Alright, hi everyone. Welcome to the first official Tarot Tuesdays on Ray Solar. I just rebranded myself today. So what was Plant-Based Empath is now Ray Solar. That's me. And we are going to start doing weekly, at least weekly, card readings, may it be tarot or oracle, on this channel, this page. And today is the first one, and if you saw my Instagram live this morning, then you saw the breakdown, my actual reading. And then I'm going to now kind of go into detail because I really wanted to sit with it and do some research on it before I let it out into the collective, because it was for the collective and it had a lot of meaningful messages for us. So I wanted to really talk through that and give you guys the opportunity to see my interpretation, give you the opportunity to take your own interpretation from it, pass it on, and go from there, because we as a group have been going through some shit. So I think this is really going to kind of lead us on our path, or at least highlight our path for us. Because I asked in the reading, if you saw, I asked, what do we need right now, energy-wise? I asked, what do we need going forward? And then those were my first two questions, but then I felt the need to backtrack and ask, what could we have used in the past? And then upon reflection, when I was going over my notes and realizing, like, why did I go backwards? Why didn't I go past, present, future? It's because a lot of us have been on this part of our journey where we're ready to go forward, we're ready to move on, we're ready to do new things, we're ready to go to new heights and essentially have a new sense of self. But in order to do that, I'm realizing now, and I see, we need to really reflect on the past. We need to not only reflect, but we need to extract the lessons from the past in order to truly move forward. Because if you just bury it, if we ignore what happened in the past, if we ignore the lessons that potentially were learned, or the strengths or the weaknesses that were highlighted, then we are destined to repeat them. So it is important to go back and to look at the past, which is what I learned during this reading, but I will read it based on the way that I pulled it, just to keep it in tune with what I really did. But I have my notes here. And my first question was, what do we need right now? And the oracle cards that I used were herbal plant cards, and I have to get the official book. I'll post it in a different post on my Instagram, the exact cards I pulled and the book that I used. But they were all plants and herbs, and so pulling them would be calling on that type of energy in order to answer the question. So what do we need right now? I got the reishi mushroom, and reishi mushrooms are gravity-defying mushrooms. They grow upwards on trees. They're very sturdy. So in order to kind of channel that energy, we are called on to find our sturdiness within ourselves, to check our foundations. We need to release in order to ascend, as the way that the reishi mushrooms ascend upwards. We are called on to take that next step in our lives right now. But in order to do that, like I said, we have to make sure that our foundations are solid so that we can build on something solid. And so I wrote down a couple questions to ask ourselves during this time in order to really to get the most out of it. We can ask, where does my power lie? And what parts of me need watering? So what are my strengths? Where can I be building right now that would be beneficial to the person that I want to become, to the self that I want to embody? And how can I be watering that? Am I giving myself enough attention and caring about myself enough and caring for myself enough in order to get these things done? And when we're talking about building the foundation and ascending, it's not necessarily about salary or stature, or like things like that that are physical and that are titles. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about soul work. So we need to set our foundations and also really focus on ourselves to transform into these new selves that we are destined to become. So that was my first one. What do we need right now? We need to focus on the self. Now, what do we need going forward? And when I usually do my past, present, future pullings, I would base it on whatever I get for the future. It's piggybacking off of whatever we pulled for the present. So hypothetically, or when we do honor this reishi mushroom energy that we are being called upon to really focus on ourselves, to set our foundations right, to make sure that we have our paths aligned for ourselves, then we go into the quaking aspen, which is the next card that I pulled. And the quaking aspen is a tree. If you've seen some of the largest and oldest organisms on planet Earth, and I wish I had the cards with me, but they were a friend's deck of cards, so I'll have to get them for myself so that I can show you guys what I'm talking about. But the artwork is very beautiful. And the quaking aspen, going back to it, is a giant tree, but underneath the soil, the individual trees are connected at the root. They share roots with their sister trees, and creating a community. So when we'll pull that card, and the card actually had on the top, you saw the trees, and on the bottom there's the roots, but they were in holding hands, and it highlighted we are one. So in the future, the energy that we are channeling is the we are one energy, and this is essential in order to ascend and in order to channel in our collective consciousness and to kind of move and to make real difference in our society. We need to be on the same level. So hypothetically, when we do have our foundation set and we are honoring ourselves, we are then able to give out to our community. So the questions that I believe we should ask ourselves in order to step into this next step would be, does my work on the self benefit the whole? So as I'm reflecting on what I need, and as I'm honoring my needs and honoring myself and working on what I want, does what I want add to the benefits of those around me? Does what I want serve my community? Does what I want serve my family? Does what I want serve future generations? Things like that. And if not, if we say yes, and if we think that what we're doing is helping, we have to also ask, have I lost myself in the community? So people tend to give, but people tend to overgive as well and not leave enough for themselves. So if you feel that you are contributing to the community and your self-work is ultimately going to benefit those around you, you're being called now to ask, am I honoring myself still in this process? As I open myself up to the community, am I still being taken care of? Or am I overgiving and pouring too much into someone else's cup and not my own? So those are the things to find a balance in during this future when we are coming together as a community, which is happening in our day-to-day as we see these tragedies, as we see these hardships going on in different parts of the country, different parts of the world. People are really bonded together in their solidarity of their community. So we need to make sure that we are ourselves and we are honoring ourselves before we even spread that energy to the community, because why would we want to pass on something that isn't set in stone within ourselves? And that's basically what I see between the flow of those two cards. So that really highlights how we're feeling, and I don't know, it resonated with me. So then once I got those cards, I was ready to stop. I was like, okay, I see what they mean here. But, and also, let me go back into the Quaking Aspen notes, because I took a couple notes on this one. It's calling for grounding. Grounding. That's another thing we really need. With the tree, with the roots being so highlighted and such an essential part of this, you need to make sure you're grounded. So, like, again, that means going back and making sure that yourself is handled, that you're not doing too much, and making sure that you have that connection with those around you, because connection diminishes fear. And if you feel some type of fear about what you're doing within yourself, you can always find support in those around you. Okay. So yes, going back. So I wanted to only stop there. I wanted to say, okay, present and future. But I knew that I had to ask about the past, because the past is an essential part to who we are every day. The past is something that we've done and that we've either learned from or that we carry with us in order to rebirth and learn again, depending on how we're able to handle it. So then I went back and I asked, what could we have done in the past? What could we have used in the past, actually, energy-wise? What lessons were there for us to learn? And I pulled the apple card, and the apple card is the forbidden fruit card. And if you know the story of the Bible, most people know that in the beginning, when Eden ate the apple, that's when everything went apeshit, and we all became self-aware. And so I got that feeding people truth and self-awareness can be dangerous, because once people are aware of themselves, there's no going back. Once you're aware of the self, once you're aware of the synchronicities, once you're aware of the greater picture, you can't unlearn. You can't become unaware of things that are surrounding you every day. So the apple was a source of shame in the beginning, but then the vision of the apple in our modern day has been reinvented. An apple a day keeps the doctor away type of thing. It is cherished now to where it was type of fear and shame was placed into it in the very beginning. So what I carry with this is related to our past, is that things that seem nice now, things that we've accustomed ourselves and become a part of the daily routine now, may have held some type of significance in a different light in the past. So it may have been a hard lesson learned before that we've kind of disguised and moved forward with, acting like it's a part of us, acting like it's just a personality trait, acting like it's something that just happened. when in reality, it's something that we really need to process and something that we really need to understand, especially when it comes to self-awareness, which is what the apple is kind of signifying here. So all of this reprocessing is for our own good. And then when things are in the past and we don't deal with them now, they will reinvent themselves. They will come into fruition in order to be learned, in order to be experienced on our life paths, because our lessons are laid out for us. When we decide to deal with them is what's in question. So when I pull this in the past, it's seeing that we have to deal with these lessons before we can even set the foundations for ourselves, like was called on with the reishi mushroom, before we can become a part of the collective, and before we can add our greatest attributes to the community, we need to really reflect on the lessons learned in the past. And those may be painful. They may be things that we thought we already handled, and they haven't, because they'll keep coming up. And you'll notice that, you may be noticing that now as you're trying to move forward and trying to create this new life, that things that have happened to you in the past are all of a sudden just becoming problems again. And you thought you handled it, maybe a different person, a job, a situation is just coming back in ways that you didn't even think it could come back again. But that's the apple giving you a second chance to reinvent, to not leave it as something that you should be afraid of. Don't leave this self-awareness in the dust as fear and as a mistake. Bring it forward and see, well, can I make this something good? Can I make this something beneficial? People eat apples all the time now. There's nothing wrong with eating an apple. But back in the day, that was the thing you weren't supposed to do. So now, if you're able to bring that into fruition, bring that message into the front and say, okay, it was hard then, but let me take the objective lesson out of this. Let me pull the knowledge that I've learned from this out of it and carry that with me rather than carrying all of the shame. So, let's see, what else? The questions I would ask in this are, what lessons have we buried that must come into the light for processing? What things have we hidden in the dark depths of ourselves that if we don't deal with now, will just be dragged along and will stop us from ascending in ourselves, or stop our community from ascending? What do we need to handle within ourselves first? And where are we silencing ourselves? Expression-wise, are we stopping ourselves from being our truest, happiest selves? Are we allowing ourselves to feel what we want to feel and do what we want to do? Or are we limiting ourselves based on what we think is okay, based on our self-awareness? Are we letting our self-awareness get in our way, or are we letting it empower us? And yeah, emotion, intuition. Don't silence your intuition. If you think something is up, trust yourself. Who do you have to trust more than yourself? So it's really about just being open and not hiding things away, because things that are hidden will come back. Things that are drowned will surface again. So pulling that apple card, especially pulling it last when I guess I unintentionally was avoiding the past in this card reading as well. But then I felt the need to really bring that up, because you can't not address the past and then continue on the present or the future, because the past is there to be processed. And we experience, we learn, and ultimately grow. So that is the notes, or these are the notes that I pulled from those card readings today. And then, like I said, this is my first official Tarot Tuesday pulling. I did Oracle, but let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you have any specific questions or you want me to go into detail on anything. Let me know what you think about the cards as well when I post them. Let me know your interpretations, if you notice anything in the artwork, because there is a lot of symbolism in the artwork that I will post, and I'll kind of type it out a little bit too. But yeah, so basically, in the past, we need to dive into our past, pull out whatever thorns are hidden within us that we don't want to talk about, the things that we think we've healed from, the things that we don't want to heal from, the things that we just want to pretend like they didn't happen. They did, and they made us feel some type of way if we're not allowing ourselves to feel them in the present moment. So we need to kind of open that box in order to set the proper foundation to ultimately grow as the collective and to ultimately empower each other. So it's a very step-by-step process, but the steps are essential and the steps are there and the support is there as well. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you pulled something out of this. Let me know what you think, and I will be back soon with more card pullings, more card readings. And if you ever want a personal reading, I'm not officially offering them yet, but if you message me and you feel a need, then that will definitely be possible. But have a great rest of your evening. Happy Tuesday, and stay blessed. Bye.